I have a story, Anons. Not ghosts, but I still can't explain it to this day. Work at a pizza joint with my bro Jose. We like to go to the gym after we close the store. Pretty late at night most of the time, around 1 to 3 a.m. Our schedule on work nights is close store, drive to my place, drive to his place, go to the gym. One night as we're leaving my house to get to his so he can change, something about the road we're on just feels wrong. Like it was too long, or time was just crawling by. No comment at that point, just decided I'd keep driving and we'd be on our way to the gym in no time. Get to his house, no problem. Get water, get to pet his dog for a sec. Hit the road in my Honda Civic around 1:30, I want to say. Not too late for us. Pull from his driveway, pretty much in a woods, and make a distinct turn right to get us on the road that'll lead to the gym. Driving no big deal, shit is casual, but we end up on the opposite end of the road at its other entrance. This shit is not possible. Drove past the exact shit we always do on the first road to gym. Same yield sign, same shitty billboard. I throw the car into park and look over at Jose. He looks exactly how I feel, just confused into a state of fucking shock. The first thing I say is, there's no fucking way that just happened. And he just kind of nods in agreement. Literally get out of my car and look around, genuinely at a loss. Hadn't ever felt adrenaline like this before. This was not being mildly lost or getting turned around. Slump back into the car and just sit there for a few, trying my fucking hardest to rationalize what had happened. Eventually hit an illegal U-turn and drive to the gym. No more temporal fuckery involved. Went gym with him for like another 2 weeks, and then our friendship kind of fell apart. We both left pizza place, just shit felt too weird, man. First ever post, wanted to get this off my chest. Happened a year ago now, I want to say. Me again, same house and around the same time of night. This one is a little different. Another night around 2 to 3 a.m., sat at computer, feeling tired but really invested in whatever I was doing. One of my feet is resting against the baseboard of the wall behind my desk, feel some heavy movement and hear a heavy thud. Wall is an exterior wall. Around where my desk is a gate between the front and backyard, have outdoor cats that usually will jump that fence when they come home. Realized that was way too violent to be one of the cats, even the fat one. Stand up, grab pistol I keep nearby because it's not a great neighborhood. Walk to rear door, open it and wait for eyes to adjust since it's pretty dark. See silhouette of something about 10 or so feet away, can't make out anything more than the general shape. Humanoid but in a strange pose like it's down on all fours but is holding its ass in the air. Long body with long and skinny limbs. Fucking what? GIF. Back into house with my pistol still raised and staring at it. Hasn't moved at all since I noticed it. Door shuts as I get the light on. Throw the door open again and nothing. What? Go back inside and wake my dad. Tell him what I saw. Man brings out his .45 and we investigate. Surprised he took it as serious as he did. Check the gate I'd heard, locked and otherwise normal. Go around to other side and check that gate. It's wide fucking open. Shut it and make sure it's locked. Go inside, no sleep that night. It's been nearly a decade since that happened and I haven't been able to reasonably justify what that thing was. Mostly because of how tall it would have been if it wasn't hunched over the way it was. Its ass was damn near at my chest level. Spooky ghost out there trying to throw ass. I've got a couple more. Appreciate screen capping, my guy. This girl I used to date had weird shit happen in her house too. I was 17 when this one happened. Hanging out at home on a Friday night, early fall of 2014. Get a phone call around 8:30 to 9 p.m. It's my girlfriend. Answer, expecting her to invite me over for drinks or smoke, but instead she's frantically chattering that I need to get down there. Grab the essentials, cigarettes, pocket knife, etc. and start walking. Feels strange for most of the walk, not so much like worry or anxiety about the call, but dread. I remember that very clearly. Walk takes about 10 minutes, chain smoking the whole time because of the weird feeling. Girlfriend and her friend/housemate are sitting in the kitchen. They busted into my girlfriend's mom's vodka, she wasn't home. I asked them what's going on, and they both start chattering, almost talking over each other. GF was in her room, studying a bit with some music, nothing unusual for her, when the room got very cold suddenly. She got up to grab a jacket so she could keep up with what she was doing before checking the thermostat. As she gets up and turns around, she sees what she describes as a bright white, sort of transparent haze come into her room from the hallway and up onto her closet door super fast. It apparently hovered there for a little bit before disappearing into her closet. She was already kind of spooked by this, but then she heard what sounded like a male voice whispering or muttering from inside her closet. She noped out and ran to her friend's room, trying to explain what had just happened. Friend gets spooked but is hesitant. At this point in the retelling, her friend quiets down. She's just staring at the table. GF tells me that while they were talking about what she could have seen was, they hear a muffled laugh from the area around her room. Manic laughter. Post too long will continue in following posts. Following the laughter, the light in friend's room explodes. Literally fucking explodes. They bolt out, go outside for a while to collect themselves and smoke. Claim to have heard some more noises from inside, thuds here and there, but it calmed down after a while, and they went in to sit and grab a drink to calm down. I'm sat there, fairly spooked myself. They explained they called me because at this point I had some experiences with spooks and that I could take GF with me to my place. I agree to tag along as they grab their things after a shot of vodka for courage. We stay grouped up since they don't feel safe alone. Go to friend's room first since it's closer. Walk in with flashlight apps on, see the broken bits of light bulb on the floor. The room is a lot colder than the kitchen. Hold my light while she packs her things. Feel tense but am still trying to rationalize things. Hear a thud from the adjacent wall. The wall between their rooms, and everyone jumps a little. Friend picks up the pace, throwing clothes and essentials into a bag, and we scoot back out into the kitchen for another shot. Go to girlfriend's room. It's super cold, but the lights are still on. She starts to pack. I'm helping her pack things to pick up the pace, occasionally glancing towards the closet because I feel like I'm being watched. As we're finishing up, a loud crash comes from inside the closet. I pull my phone out and shine my flashlight inside. One of the wall-mounted shelves had collapsed. Finish packing and scoot outside, lock up and hang out for a bit, waiting for friend's ride to pick her up. GF and I start walking home, smoking and talking a bit. We're still feeling pretty tense. Any noise around us makes us jump. Swear we see things in the reflections of windows. Get home, explain situation to parents. They say it's fine if she stays for a little while. She stayed for the weekend, had to call her mom who had been working late that night. We'll continue with some more details. Should be last post for this story, then I'm going to take a break for a little while. Sunday rolls around, spent the weekend hanging out and just trying to take our minds off of the spooky shit. Decide probably for the best for her to head home since her mom was going to be there. Walk over in the early evening, feeling a bit anxious but otherwise enjoying the fall weather. We get there, and her mom is hanging out at the table, smoking and messing with her phone. She tells us that she hadn't seen or heard anything when she got home that night, but she didn't doubt what GF had told her. Explains that the house was owned by her brother prior to her. That's how she ended up owning it. Brother was troubled and struggled with mental illness and drug addiction. He was always getting worse as time went on. He would roam around the house, breaking shit and throwing fits as he did so. He lived alone most of the time, except for the few times he had roommates. He hit a breaking point, and in one of his fits, he killed himself in the closet of girlfriend's bedroom. One of the roommates said he was just laughing and then stopped. They found him a day later when someone finally opted to check on him since he was usually doing something when he wasn't having an episode. GF and I hung around past nightfall. Nothing spooky happened, so she opted to stay home. Besides a few small things, nothing spooky happened in that house for as long as I dated her. I'm forgetting a few things, I'm sure, but that was one of the strangest things I'd ever heard, let alone experienced. I'm gonna take a break for a bit. Got maybe one or two more good ones if the thread holds up.
I split this up because it's really long and also for pacing. About 10 years ago, my grandfather dies, April 2014. Never knew him that well, but it turns out my dad is in his will even though they were estranged. Dad wasn't expecting much and basically just got a box of random shit, threw it in the basement. Months later, we end up talking about Grandpa and I find out more about him. Grandpa was half Ojibwe, which makes me 1/8, but Dad never told me because both him and Grandpa hated tribe politics and refused to live on res. I look white anyway, so who cares? Dad stopped talking to him because Grandpa was still very into tribal religion, but Dad married into a Catholic family. Side note, parents stopped going to church sometime before I was born, so I was never confirmed or anything. Anyway, the box of shit is a bunch of leftover native crap that Grandpa willed to Dad, probably as some last-ditch effort to de-Christianize him. Dad doesn't give a shit and is just glad he didn't inherit any massive debt or anything, but he does say he regrets not making an effort to reconnect. About a year later, I'm moving into residence at university and packing my stuff, and I see the box. Open it up. Predictably, it just looks like a bunch of weird wooden /bone stuff with feathers and beads. Figure it might make a good talking point to impress chicks, so I grab some dreamcatcher-looking thing and stuff it in under a few of my shirts. Dad never even opened the box anyway, so it's not like he'd notice it's missing. 1 month into semester, I remember I have the thing and hang it up in my dorm room. That's when the trouble starts. That first night after hanging it, I just cannot sleep at all. No matter what I do, I just can't fall asleep. Figure it's just anxiety because of classes, so the next day I ask my buddy to hook me up and smoke a small joint before bed. Never in my fucking life have I had worse nightmares than that night. Fire, screaming, crying, running away. Dark forests with monsters. People being murdered. Just a continual horror show for what felt like days. When I finally wake up, it takes me almost 10 minutes before I'm able to fully convince myself it wasn't real. Apparently, I was quiet the whole night, according to my roommates. After an exhausting-ass day, I sit down to do some homework, and I can't shake the feeling that somebody is staring at me. I'm in a single room with the curtain shut. There's nobody inside, but it feels like someone is standing right behind me. Several times I swear I see someone move beside me and snap around to look, but there's nothing there. Decide to just try to sleep early and normally. No weed or anything. No dreams. Wake up feeling better. Finish homework and go to class. Everything's fine. A week goes by with no incidents. Figure everything is probably fine. Weekend is coming up, so I make some plans to go out on Friday to a movie with a girl. Date sucks, but whatever. Get home late, walk into my room ready to drop into bed, look over at my closet and nearly shit my fucking pants. There's a figure standing right there in all black robes with a pale white face. Looks human at first, but the face proportions are all wrong. I blink. It's gone. I hit the lights. Check the whole room. Nothing there. I am weirded the hell out, but I'm so tired that I just want to sleep. Lights off. Lay down. I check a few more times, but I can't see anything weird, so I drift off to the sound of my roommate reading some shit aloud in the room beside me. Next day, I ask roommate what he was reading. He looks confused. Tells me he wasn't reading anything, he was asleep before I was. Ask him if he had a podcast on or something to sleep. He says no, asks if I have a pet or something. No? Well, I was hearing something shuffling around in your room. Might want to check for rats, bro. Pretty sure all my blood left my body for a minute, but he didn't notice. I have no classes on Saturday, so I end up being the only one home for a while. I check for rats just in case. There's nothing, not that I would know because I've never had rats, but nothing looks out of place. Do some Google searching because while I'm not exactly a /x/file at this point in my life, I'm not so retarded to not recognize some ghost shit when it's in front of my face. Conflicting info, as expected. The dream catcher thing really is just a dream catcher, a legit one, but nothing sinister at all. I end up reading about some Ojibwe legends about Manitou and such, but none of it sounds much like what I saw, but it's interesting for sure. I also read about exorcisms a bit out of curiosity, never really knew much about them besides pop culture, but it's also neat. Can't find fucking any legit footage that isn't obviously edited, but I look up some Latin Mass audio to get an idea of what it might actually sound like. Sounds weirdly familiar, though it's not like I haven't heard Latin before. Whatever, I order a pizza and play some vidya. Dark Souls 2 PvP. I remember that part really clearly. Roommates come back. Eventually, everybody goes to bed. Just before I fall asleep, I realize that the noise I was hearing from my roommate's room was Latin fucking prayers. Don't sleep the whole night. Gotta skip around a bit because it doesn't really work that well to greentext this in order. Every 2 weeks or so for the next 3 months, I have nightmares of varying intensity. I took the dream catcher down, obviously, but it didn't make a difference. I saw the figure 2 more times, never managed to make out any features besides long black robes and a deathly white face with smeared features. I also started dreaming about being locked in a small room occasionally. Roommates also told me multiple times that I talked in my sleep. So anyway, when the semester ends, I go home for a bit and talk to my dad again. Ask about my grandpa again. Dad knows I took the dream catcher but isn't mad, asks me if I lost or broke it. Say no, I was just curious and I didn't think he'd care anyway. He doesn't really care, tells me a bit more about Grandpa. Grandpa was fucking abducted from his parents and put into a residential school as a kid. This was actually the reason him and my dad stopped talking. My grandpa absolutely could not accept that his son was marrying a Catholic. Some pieces start falling into place a bit. Don't want to say anything about the crazy shit, so I just keep my mouth shut. I also find out that the contents of that box weren't packed there by my grandpa, but by the people who cleaned up his place after he died. That stuff, Dreamcatcher included, was around his house. In fact, most of it was in the bedroom where he died. So anyway, I spent 3 more weeks at home before going back to the dorm. The very night I get back, I wake up at around 2 a.m. and I see the robed guy again, standing at the foot of my bed. It's weird. The black of his robes is so dark that it's easily visible against the walls without the lights on. Now that I know what I'm looking at, he looks like a priest, just scary. I can't be sure, but it seems almost to me like I'm having some kind of waking nightmare of something my grandpa saw. Without turning on the light, I get the dream catcher out of the closet. I'm half expecting some demon to jump out, but no, it's just string and wood and a few feathers. The ghost priest thing is still looking at me, and I swear I can hear faint praying in Latin. Without being told or even looking it up, somehow I just know what to do. Everybody's asleep, so I quickly grab a few things, slip out of my room, then go downstairs and out of the dorm building. There's a spot where the smokers generally congregate. I go over, throw the dream catcher in the big ashtray and pull some dry grass from nearby to put it on top. Use my lighter to set the whole thing on fire. Nothing flashy happens, it just burns for a good 5 to 10 minutes. Go back inside. Priest ghost is gone. Room just feels quieter. Lay down. Fall asleep. Dream about nothing. So yeah, haunted object. You probably thought this was going somewhere else from all the native stuff, but no, sadly I don't have any spooky Wendigo stories. I've gone to haunted locations since then, and it feels almost exactly the same as being around that dream catcher did. Weird thing is though, even pointing a camera right at figures, I can see I've never managed to get a picture or video of one. They're just not there in the recording. Ghosts are definitely real, but I think a lot of the proof for them is bullshit, if that makes sense.
Pulling a few stories from my binders today, 2005. I grew up in a haunted house, and Desu horror movies have no idea what it's like. House history isn't really important, but nothing bad happened here in our family since we've been here, and we've been living it since my mom was little. It's her dad's house, but we inherited it when he died. As long as I can remember, there's a house rule that if you talk to someone by yourself, you call for that person to make sure whoever you're talking to is the real one. Basically, every day I would have a conversation where I'd run into somebody, call for them anyway, and the version of them I was talking to would just stop being there. Not blinking out or whatever, but sort of like how you can't ever remember the minute you fall asleep. They're there, and then they aren't. And you sort of have this feeling that they actually weren't ever there at all. This is so normal that we don't even freak out about it. But we have that rule because it used to be that the fake versions would try and cause trouble, spreading rumors and saying really nasty comments just to make everyone angry. It's literally an everyday thing, and none of us think it's a big deal. Probably have our own ways of rationalizing it. Mom eventually gets cancer and dies. In the hospital, not in the house. Be sad for a long time. Kind of wish she'd show up in the house, but she doesn't. Alone one afternoon after school. Go to get soda from fridge. Mom is standing at the sink. I'm scared but also excited because I haven't seen her in so long. She looks at me and she's crying. Ask her if she's at peace where she is now. She looks really sad. No, Anon, there's nothing. Suddenly isn't there anymore. That shit still fucks me up. No, it's probably the house fucking with me. Haven't seen mom since though, terror.jpg.
I had a terrifying experience while exploring the old warehouses and industrial buildings on Moore Lane and Victoria Street in Preston. The buildings are surrounded by 4 roads: Victoria Street, Sizer Street, Ashmore Street, and the main road, Moore Lane. The abandoned site consists of 3 buildings with a courtyard in between them. These are now being used as a drug den, off and on. However, I am sure there is something much more sinister, much more evil lurking in those buildings. I visited them a year ago out of interest for urban exploration for a few days. The first terrifying experience I had took place in the middle 2-story building with the broken windows. You can only enter through the broken glass door at the front. At first, it seemed a rather normal abandoned building, clearly used as a workplace. When I headed up to the top floor, the signs of drug activity were more apparent, but there was no sign of any druggies. After looking around, I went back to ground floor to look further there when I heard the sounds of pounding footsteps coming from upstairs towards me. Now, as I said, there weren't any druggies there, and I was alone. Furthermore, I couldn't see anyone coming down. So I ran and ran until I was clear from the site, but just as I stopped to catch my breath, I heard the footsteps again, meaning that whatever it was had followed me out. I then ran until I reached the safety of an enclosed building. The second horrifying experience happened several weeks later, where I had found that these criminals had opened an entrance to the 3rd building, which is a large 3-story Victorian building once used as a biscuit factory. It had also been used as a brickworks in the last decade, a site to help Chinese students apply to UK universities, and the roof rooms were used as a dance studio. So it is a fascinating building and a great shame that it's being used as a drug den. I made a few explorations of the place, though I did not take any pictures, which is bad practice if I was trying to be a good urban explorer. But the thought slipped my mind. The building is fascinating, and itself like a labyrinth, though what I didn't know was it is as hazardous as the labyrinth of mythology, for there are worse things than druggies in the halls of that building. I never ran into any of them, and though I knew that there was risk of meeting them, my visits were relatively safe until the last time. But it wasn't a crazy druggie that was the problem, but something else. I was visiting one morning, and I decided to take a fall tour of the building. This was not too dangerous until I reached the top floor, and something quite terrifying took place. Now, the top floor consists of a main hall and 2 separate side areas. One looks over Ribblebrook House, a student accommodation for UCLAN, and the other is behind a door that overlooks the Vernon building of UCLAN. It always seemed strange why these buildings would remain unused despite their prominent locations. The pounding footsteps and what I would soon hear would answer that question. I attempted to open the door that overlooked the Vernon building, but it wouldn't budge, and then I heard it. The most horrendous moan, like a corpse that had been years dead, rearing itself back to life. This moaning continued, but I didn't wait to see how long it would last, and I bolted and ran from the top floor all the way to the entrance, and I have never been back ever since. There is something evil in that place, something monstrous, and it is telling that even the druggies do not stay there for long. The place was boarded up last year soon afterwards, but it is clear that the druggies have recently started going there again, so it is still possible to gain entrance if you wish. I have seen the way they gain entry, so I can tell you that if you want to investigate it. There is property bordering the location that used to be a pub and is now used for social housing, though. I suspect that many of the people are druggies themselves. Well, the bins outside the house are at a fence which they seem to climb over to get into the site. Also, the people who live in the former pub to help people gain access, so you can try them as well. This is, of course, if you dare find out what lurks inside those dreadful buildings.
Be me. Working at this old-ass hotel in Pick-related. Be a small city west of Chicago. Hotel is supposedly haunted. Everyone on staff has a paranormal story to tell. Be working night audit as usual. Doing my regular thing, checking a few guests. Sit around on the internet. Be about 2 a.m. Phone rings. Phone tells what room is calling or if it's an outside line. Not an outside line, but the room shows as one that's vacant that night. WTF.jpg. Answer. Front desk, motherfucker. What you need? No one is there. Hang up phone. Double check to see that room is really vacant. Vacant. Nope. .jpg. A little creeped out, but chalk it up to whatever and continue sitting around doing laundry and shit. Be 30 minutes later. Phone rings again. Same fucking room. Let it ring. No one's in that room anyway. It won't stop ringing. Pick up the phone. Front desk ass bag. What the fuck? No one. Just static. Static starts getting louder. Fuck. Hang up phone. Chills all over my body. Really freaked out now. Think I'm losing it. Check again to make sure that room is vacant. Vacant. Just stare at the word vacant on the computer screen. Man, fuck this shit. Go out for a smoke. Calm down. Come back in. Finish laundry. Get busy doing the night audit. Be about 3:30 a.m. at this point. Be fucking tired. Always be tired at this job. Lay down on the couch in the lobby and pick related. Uneasy, but like the terrible employee I was, I drift off to sleep. Almost immediately start dreaming. Dream that I'm in the hotel kitchen, which can be entered through a series of winding pathways from the lobby. Kitchen always gives me a sense of dread. Always had to go in there to prepare the breakfast and always hated it. Still sleeping, dreaming I'm in the entryway between the kitchen and a maintenance room. Dream that I begin to float upward toward the ceiling. Try to stop myself, but I can't. Wake up. Holy shit.jpg. That was super realistic. Look around. I'm not in the lobby on the couch. I'm laying on the floor in the kitchen right near the entrance. Get up, look around. Nope. Turn and make a beeline for the lobby. Behind me, all at once, all of the pots and pans in the kitchen crash down. I run. Back in lobby, Muzak on the speakers. Fuck, TFW. I have to work here every night. TFW, I have to go back into the kitchen to make the breakfast in 15 minutes. TFW, I have to clean up after a ghost. I quit that job and moved out of that town shortly after this happened. Here's another one. Hotel lobby was decorated with all sorts of antiques, including an antique organ. It looked a lot like pick-related, but without the top portion. Organ was always closed because it was pretty fragile, and we didn't want anyone trying to play it. Be me. Be working at same hotel. About 3 a.m. again. Sitting there doing my thing. Muzak playing softly. Out of nowhere, I hear a chord played on the organ. Organ is out of sight from the front desk. WTF.jpg. Another chord plays. I get up. Chills. Walk around the corner. Organ is closed, like it always is. Turn around to go back to the front desk. Hear a god-awful scratching, like nails across a blackboard. Rip across the wallpaper behind me. Turn around. Nothing. TFW. It's time for another cigarette. Seriously, fuck that place.